Welcome to Natural Habitat Adventures Daily Dose of Nature. Today's topic, sharks, predators with a purpose. Presented by NatHab Expedition Leader Eric Ramirez. I'm your host, Rob Mess. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Eric, take it away.
Thank you so much, Rob, for that incredible presentation. So once again, my name is Eric Ramirez. Um, Today's topic, sharks, predators with purpose. The reason why I decided to present this today is because 14th of July is a day of shark awareness. That's why this is the perfect day to talk about sharks. So before before I start to talk about many different facts about sharks, I would love to share a little bit of myself. I'm an ad expedition leader. I lead trips in Mexico, but also I am a marine biologist. I studied marine biology in 2011, and I'm a very passionate about ocean, about sharks and other marine creatures. It's a huge irony because a lot of people feel unsafe in the water, but for me, it feels so great to just dive into the ocean and just listen the bubbles running from my regular um, to the water, and I just really enjoy this time. So all this adventure started in 2011, as I said before, when I moved to La Paz. That was my young version, as you can see. I in the fifth semester, I decided to do something with my life, and I said I love sharks, so I entered into this shark lab in La Paz. And I remember the first time I went to the field in order to collect my data. I was in a fishery camp and I saw all the sharks lighting up on the floor, on the sand. And for me, that was my first shark encounter. And to be honest, I did not expect to see my first shark dead. I was a little bit sad, but I understood that this was part of my job. I collected different tissues from muscles to stomach contents, and my job was to get the stomach contents from different species of sharks to the lab in order to analyze the stomach content. So in the lab, I opened the shark stomach in order to see what kind of what kind of praise did the shark eat before get caught. So it was interesting because for me it was kind of like CSI when I was in school, just trying to identify the different skeleton parts, different squid, pigs from different species. So basically, my job was to describe what did the sharks eat before, and with this, we wanted to see where do the sharks hang out normally in the water. So with this, we discovered that sharks are not this super bloodthirsty animals who are gonna predate upon everything. As a matter of fact, they're more specialized organisms who might predate upon very few type of prey. Sometimes they just eat a type of crustacean, or sometimes they just eat a type of fish, but they don't feed upon everything. There are few species, for example, tiger sharks, they eat everything. But for example, the one that the picture here is just a silky shark. They prey upon very few species. So after working in a lab, I started to work in another lab, but towards genetics. I like it, but I said this is not for me. I need to be outdoors. So I started to work as a World Truck Guide in La Paz. That was a very impressive job. I enjoyed it a lot. And then I decided to have more shark encounters by myself and with my friends. And I remember the first time I was in front of this silky shark, I said, wow, so I always thought that sharks were these super dangerous creatures which wanted to kill me, but they're not. And I developed this fascination and I wanted just to be more in the water, close to them. So for today, I want to talk about sharks' life history, a little of myth busting. There are so many things around sharks, and which are probably makes us think that sharks are pretty dangerous organisms. Also, I'm gonna talk about importance of sharks in ecosystem. What about the populations at risk? This is the reality. This is not a myth. And of course, we're gonna talk about conservation efforts. So this is a very long topic, but I will try to just pack it in a nutshell and just give it to you as easy as possible. So sharks belong to this huge group called Elasmobranchi. Elasmobranchis are a type of fish which are made out cartilaginous tissues. We have the bony fish, like the regular fish that we eat normally in a soup or in a taco. And then we have the shark relatives, Elasmobranchis, which are the manta rays, the sharks, the rays 2 skates. So all of them have cartilage instead of bone. So this is the original plan, like the most common shark shape, let's say. Uh, as you can see, this is a great white shark, and the great white sharks they have a fusiform shape, like a torpedo-like form, and they have a dorsal fin, pectoral fins, and a caudal fin too. Sharks they have highly specialized cells on the rostrum or on the very close to the type of nose of the shark. We call it a snout. And these ampulla lorenzini are highly specialized cells which are detecting the electrical fields from either other organisms or the ones that are produced by the environment, by the magnetic pulse of the earth. Then we have, of course, the cartilage, which is the compound that is uh, the cartilage is basically the instead of bones they have cartilage under a skeleton, and then we have the Blackwood scales. Blackwood scales is a highly specialized scale that is really good for them because they makes them more hydrodynamic, but also it offers them a better protection against attack of other sharks or other kind of predators as well. And then like other fish, mm, they have this hugely in the case of the sharks they have livers who are producing a lot of oil. This oil is helping them to be more buoyant or less buoyant. It's like going up or going down. In the case of the regular fish, they have a natatory bladder, which they inflate or deflate with gas. Sharks, they like a this, and they have these long, big lobes or liver. The liver is producing a very particular oil that we call them esqualene. Esqualene is going to be really, really relevant in the future. Just keep that in mind. And then they have the gill slits, which in sharks they have 5 or 6. But what about shark senses? Again, they have the ampulla lorenzini in the snout. They detect the electrical fields. The touch, all the sharks and also fish, they have a lateral line which runs from here, this part of the head, part of the body, to the tail. This lateral line has a lot of porosis which can detect the pressure variations. Just imagine that I'm pushing a little bit of water next to the shark will immediately feel it. Smell, sharks smell really good, but there's a myth that says that sharks can detect 1 drop of blood in 1 mile. That's completely wrong. That's a myth. As a matter of fact, they actually can detect 1 drop of blood in the equivalent of an Olympic pool, which is still really good, really acute, of course. Hearing, sharks can hear low frequency sounds, especially if they come from prey, wounded prey most likely. The eyesight is really good. Most of the sharks, or some of them, they're really good night hunters. They develop this eye, which is really good to see in the darkness. But also, for example, some of the sharks they have a third eyelid, which is protecting their eyes once they're hunting. But some of them, like the great white, they don't have this eyelid, and once they're about to hit the prey, what they do is they turn back their eyes. Taste, yes, they have a lot of taste points in the tongue, and sharks need to try if this item is good, this prey is good or not. If they like it, they will eat it. If they don't, they spit it out, of course. Reproduction. These are 3 of the most extremist example of reproduction within the shark species. The big ag treasure shark, this one, only produces 2 pups per liter. Yeah. The second shark, the Greenland shark, reached the sexual maturity with 150 years old, and actually 50 years, and they actually can live up 400 years. And the green-eyed dogfish has a gestation period of 31 months. So of course that we have this. These are kind of the poles, the extremes in sharks reproduction. We have, of course, other species who might reach the sexual maturity at different age. But I want to tell you is that sharks, they produce few puppies. Sharks, they reach sexual maturity pretty late. They're pretty old creatures, and the combination of all these factors make them not really good for fishery. That's why I show you this information that will take more relevance in the future as well. So they have 3 different strategies. First of all, oviparity. That means that they produces eggs. They lay the eggs on the bottom, and the eggs after a certain period they will hatch, and then we'll have a fully formed shark. Ovoviviparity means that females will produce eggs inside of their bodies, and once they're ready, the eggs will hatch, but they'll continue growing inside of female until they're ready. And once they're ready, the female will give them birth alive. In the case of aplacental biviparity, they won't have an egg case. The embryos will attach by umbilical cord to the uterus of the female, and once they're ready, the female will give them birth alive. So we have different strategies. So I want to play a game with you. I have 5 different options, and I have a question for you. Which animal is not a shark? So if you could please type down your answer. I want to read your answers, and let's figure out which of this is imposter. Okay? Okay. I don't see yet any answer. Rob, can you
Did
see
you?
any
Yes,
any
over in the question field, let's see, we've got E.
E? Okay.
We got we've got a bunch of C's.
Want to see
Uh,
too?
yeah, we've got a B there as well.
Okay.
We've got someone saying that this is a trick question, that all
I
are
don't know.
sharks.
Yeah.
Let's see. Uh, Lots and lots of. Oh, there's an E in there as well.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. That's. Hmm. Oh, there's another A coming through. Yep. So we've.
Shark,
Boy,
right?
we're all over the place, aren't we today,
Yeah.
Eric?
Hmm. Thank you, Rob. So the answer is yes, all of them are sharks. But I like it to show you this because I like to break down the myth that all the sharks should look like a great white shark, of course, with multiple teeth, with these angry faces. As a matter of fact, there's so many species. We have more than 530 species registered in the world, and a lot of them, they have different shapes, different colors, different sizes, and they inhabit in different places. And evolution has been in charge to shape all these forms. So that's why we have sharks living in different environments in the ocean. We have sharks living from coral reef to deep sea ocean, like the Greenland shark, Green lantern shark, and also we have sharks living from tropical waters to halid waters from the Arctic Ocean. Also, we have sharks living in the water column, in the pelagic zone, in mangroves, everywhere. Sharks have conquered different type of marine ecosystems, and they're really successful. So sharks' food behaviors, this is something that is a fact. They all predators, although they are not predating upon the same organisms, they all consume other preys. Sharks feed on different preys, and all depends of the place where they live. I like it a lot this because sharks, they have a different strategies. They don't feed upon everything. And as a matter of fact, I brought you this uh, interesting video of very unusual ways of hunting. This is a saw shark, and as you can see, the saw shark have developed a saw-like snout, which is moving side to side in order to slosh the prey. This is the way how they hunt. This is very unusual, right? What about this? Have you ever seen a shark hunting with a tail? Yes, this is a treasure shark. The treasures, they have a long, long, long tail, which are using as a whip to stun the prey. So once they're stunned, they just catch them and eat them. What about my favorite, the great hammerhead sharks? They have a lot of this ampulla of Lorenzini in the snout. They can detect really, really accurate the electric fields from in this case from the rays. So when they're dwelling on the bottom, once they detect a prey, they will scoop out the prey and eat it immediately. And of course, we have the whale shark. The whale shark is a filter feeder. They don't have proper teeth like makos or like great white sharks. Instead, they have multiple filaments like teeth, but they're using to buy the prey because they are filter feeders. Yeah. So I explain you a little bit of the biology of the sharks, reproduction, feeding behavior. So I want to combine this information with the ecological role which sharks are playing in the ecosystems. So this is just a very easy way to explain. This is the food chain. So if you remember, we have on the bottom the primary producers, and then we have the primary consumers, and then secondary consumers, and then we have the top predators, the sharks. So just imagine we decide to move one of these levels, just the sharks. Sharks not only exist, what is going to happen with the mackerel population if the sharks are not feeding? If they're not controlling the mackerel population, probably we will have in the next few years more and more mackerels. But what happens, for example, if we have a lot of mackerels? What would happen to the herring population? It's done. Finito. No more herrings. So if the herrings were in charge to control the crustacean population, in a few years we will have more crustaceans. So as you can see, this is the way how the food chain is unbalanced. We have more of different prey that we had before. So that's why the scientists conclude that sharks are really important in the ecosystem because they are diversity enhancers. Sharks are not predating. Sharks, when I'm saying sharks, is multiple species, not only one species of sharks, but different species of sharks are feeding upon different type of species of prey. So they're basically controlling all the organisms who are inhabited, in this case, the coral reef. So if they're controlling the population, that means that there's not going to be an imbalance in this place. We'll have an equilibrium, all right? What about population control? So sharks are really good eliminating the sick and also the wounded or members of a certain population of either fish or crustaceans. So this is really good and healthy for the entire population of fish or crustacean because the ones who were sick will not pass the genes with the disease to the next generation. So this is a way to clean the population of either fish or crustaceans too. Um, Also, for example, when some other species which are not native for that environment, like this lionfish, arrive to other places, sharks will be in charge to remove these new invaders. That's why it is important. It is paramount to have sharks in the ecosystem. Yeah. Nutrient cycling. Sharks, some species are highly migratory, like the scallop hammerhead sharks, or also some type of silky sharks or Galapagos sharks. And these sharks are moving so much energy from one place to another. In their way, what they're doing is consuming a lot of fish, a lot of different prey. So when they poop, all this poop goes to the bottom, but also all this poop is going again to this to the carbon cycle, to the nitrogen cycle. So they basically sending a lot of nutrients to different parts, so other organisms can could take advantage of this waste of this poop as well. Habitat maintenance, sharks which inhabit nearby kelp forest, seagrass meadows, or coral reefs also are keeping off the grazers or the herbivorous species so they don't overgraze on the seagrass or on the kelp forest. This is a very interesting, there's a very interesting example of this in some places in the Pacific. From in the kelp forest, sharks are no longer exist, unfortunately, due to the overfishing activities driven by humans. And we have a lot of different purple sea urchins. And you see how these purple sea urchins are eating the roots of the kelp forest. And what you have seen before, healthy place with a lot of kelp, with a lot of shark, with a lot of fish, now you see a place with only sea urchins. That's something that happens when you remove sharks from the ecosystem. What about meat busting? One of my favorite topics. So yeah, I do enjoy to watch these movies. To be honest, I've watched Jaws several times, Sharknado 2, 1, 2, 3, probably fourth, Sharktopus, Shark Skies. I like this, but I know that this is just science fiction. But for some of our brains, this is not a science fiction thing. This is actually something that we related to reality because we don't have any more information about this. Our brains are taking this as a fact. So movies, magazines, and gossips are increasing the bad reputation that we conceive by the shark from the sharks. So multiple Hollywood movies are responsible of giving the bad reputation, but also everything spiked up after Steven Spielberg decided to launch Jaws in 1976. 76. So this is interesting because after this, a lot of people were so afraid to be in the water due to this movie. By the way, in the poster, the shark that we see is not a great white; it's a mako shark. Just a fun fact. And it is very interesting because in 2015, a study was a study published said that 51% of the Americans are afraid of sharks, and 36% they don't feel comfortable in the water due to the presence of the sharks in the water. So this is just very interesting to notice because with this information we can understand more how our brains are defining what makes me feel afraid or not. So another study conducted in 2022 by Luciano Razia, Killer Animals in Films, Reality versus Fiction, he basically just assess all the movies that have portrayed animals, like mostly horror movies, and he conclude that if you look to this graphic, a lot of movies are about sharks. Very few movies are produced using snakes or crocodiles or dinosaurs or dogs or rats or apes or monkeys, but more about sharks. So if we look the next graphic, this is in the x axis. We see humans killed per year. Mosquitoes, they take the lead with 1 million people per year. But apparently Hollywood is not interested to make pictures about mosquitoes, right? But what about sharks? We have here in the y-axis the number of films, 80 films versus almost none, no kills. So just to let you know, sharks kill around between 10 and 12 people per year. Just that. So my question is, why we keep portraying sharks as very dangerous organisms if the facts are different? So my next question is, why are we afraid of sharks? Our brains, let me tell you something, our brains, they function, they try to take always shortcuts in order to take faster decisions because our brains consume a lot of energy, a lot of calories. So that means that our brains are take decisions through heuristics. Our brains take one decision sometimes in automatic, especially those which are not really relevant in our life. I mean, we are not getting waking up and we are not measuring how much coffee are we drinking. We are not counting how much time are we washing our hands. So these things are mostly done in automatic. Okay. So what happened, for example, if you have to take more complex decisions, you have to take more time. They're more conscious, and we have to put a lot of energy too. So With this information, imagine yourself in the water. You you have holidays in Hawaii, and you are in the water with your family, and all of a sudden, I don't know, somehow you think about the Jaws movie. This is information that your brains have. So using heuristic is that your brain will take a shortcut directly in order to take a decision. Should I stay in the water or not? So our brains, our primitive way brains have developed two different ways to deal with problems. I either fight or run. So in this case, you don't want to fight against shark. So you will run. So what I'm saying with this is that we need to take more time to evaluate if sharks are really dangerous or are really these creatures who are gonna kill us all the time. With all this information so far that I've given to you, apparently they're not, right? But it will take time to convince you that they are not the monsters that we think they are. So, with all that being said, what about the sharks' populations? These are not myths, these are actually facts. These are the different threats that the sharks have to face since a long time ago. First of all, overfishing with finning or by catch. I will explain you these concepts afterwards. Contamination, habitat loss, global warming, and weak regulations. And at the end, we have misinformation, which for me is one of the most important. Sometimes I think we should share more accurate, more precise information towards people so people could understand more about sharks. So overfishing concept is related to how much sharks or how much organisms we are fishing. Um, because when we fish them more than the populations are replenished, the populations will be in a peril. So in this case, just to give you raw numbers, humans kill around 100 million sharks per year. So remember what I told you about the reproduction, about few puppies per year, about they reach the sexual maturity pretty late, they're pretty old organisms. So those factors combined with overfishing are making the populations going down dramatically. Scientists have estimated that a third part of the known species of sharks and skates are considered either in danger or critical or next to extinction. That those are facts. And I don't know, I feel scared when I read this. So what happened? By catch means that sharks were not targeted by fisheries. That means that other type of fisheries, probably they were fishing tuna or crustaceans. By accident, they capture sharks. So imagine this 100 million sharks caught per year. Only 26% are actually target. 74% are taken by catch. That's a lot of sharks. And finally, finning. This is one of the most despicable way to take advantage of an organism. Big vessels are catching sharks, but they cannot store or they don't want to store the entire shark. So basically, what they do is they remove the fins, they cut off the fins because actually the fins are more worth it than the rest of the body. So they remove the fins and they discard the rest of the organism, which remains alive in the water. This is the most horrible way to die, suffocated because they don't have fins to move and they just died on the bottom. So, wait, Eric, but I am not a shark consumer, or am I? I don't know. According to global trade estimates by FAO and traffic data, between 10 and 20 million people worldwide regularly or occasionally consume shark, ray, or skate products, either knowingly or unknowingly. What kind of products do we consume? Well, first, the meat. This is interesting because in some places, the shark meat is mislabeled. That means that they are selling shark meat. They're using shark meat, but they're selling as other type of fish, either cod or sometimes shellfish or sometimes tuna as well. In Mexico, for example, at least in Baja, it was very common to go to these places to eat this famous Baja taco fish. And some of these places, they did not sell fish, it was shark. Also, shark products are utilized to produce different type of supplements like shark cartilage or omega-3. If you read, for example, the label behind, they might have this as an ingredient, esqualene. Um, so esqualene, remember, is the type of oil that the livers produces. The liver produce. Again, the fins are really valued in the Asian markets because a lot of people consume it in a soup. Also, the mandibles and the teeth are highly seeked by by people in different places, and they buy them as souvenirs as well. So yes, like many of these products are immersed into our markets. Also, for example, the cosmetic industry is using the oil to produce makeup, eyeliners, sunscreen as well, and other type of supplements as well. So over 60 countries export or import shark products, and shark meat trade volume is around 100,000, 150,000 metric tons. So it is very interesting because apparently a lot of meat is traded in different markets around the globe, but sometimes we ensure ourselves that we are not consuming shark. Huh? Yes, there's a lot of mislabeling. Also, there's a lot of not registered um, numbers of exportation and importation too. Yeah, there's a lot of lack of information about shark's meat and shark's fin. Indonesia, India, Spain, Mexico, and the US are top five catchers. So this breaks my heart a lot because uh, in the 90s, Mexico, especially Baja, was a hotspot for many divers. A lot of people came from other countries just to dive with large schools of hammerhead sharks around the sea mountains. Unfortunately, like late 90s, early 2000s, the Mexican government offered some fishing permits to Taiwanese and Chinese vessels so they could fish in Mexican waters. That was basically one of the biggest problem that affected many shark populations. Nowadays, we don't have large schools of sharks in Baja. We don't have a lot of sharks in the Pacific because of this permits which Mexican government concede to these vessels. Um, Other threats, we have contamination, habitat loss, and global warming. Contamination, many microplastics, many heavy metals in the water. Different type of medicines also are changing the conduct of different sharks. They're producing different metabolic diseases as well. And remember that I told you that sharks are really important for reefs, coral reefs, but also for seagrass meadows, and also for kelp forests. Yes, they're really important for them, but so as the coral reef are rely upon the sharks too. This is a These environments are really connected with the sharks. But what happened, for example, if due to the global warming we have coral bleaching, coral will die, and then we won't have enough fishes in the coral reefs. And if we don't have fishes, basically we don't have life to support. Sharks will no longer exist in these places. So yes, as you can see, there's a huge relationship between sharks and ecosystems too. So I'm gonna tell you this. Humans kill 11,400 sharks per hour. Sharks kill 12 humans per year. Who are the real killers? So yes, this is something that is happening right now. We cannot control it yet. So um, I want to tell you what's going on regarding to conservation efforts, because I know that this information could be very stressful or could be very sad, but at the same time, we are more people are doing better things in order to protect and conserve sharks. So scientific and NGO-led initiatives. We have lots of different NGOs working in different countries, advocating for sharks. WWF is donating a lot of money to local programs in order to change them, well, in order to show local communities um, the importance of, instead of fishing sharks, steering towards more sustainable activities like ecotourism. Mission Blue is another really good NGO leading by Sylvia Earle. She's one of the most important shark advocates in the world. She's traveling from one country to another, just talking about sharks. This Pelagios Cacunja is based in La Paz, and I have really good friends working for this NGO, and they're conducting really incredible shark studies in La Paz and also in other places like Cocos Island in Costa Rica and also in Galapagos Island too. Then we have, of course, Treasure Shark, a really important NGO. Remember that Indonesia is catching so many sharks. Well, these NGOs are kind of balancing the weight as well. So in terms of international plans and treaties, CITES is in charge to protect and conserve. But also, what they're doing is they are encouraging the countries to follow better practices like stop finning, and also to they also enlist species which might be in danger, like the oceanic white-tip shark or hammerheads or mako sharks too. Um, United Nations also with the program Life Below Water is doing fantastic in listing all, different species of sharks, and they are recommending also the countries to establish shark management plans as well. Legislation and fin trade bans. This is really really important because we need to stop finning. That's a fact. This is not under discussion. And United States of America and also many countries from the European Union, what they're doing is they they are trying to force the vessels. Once they arrive to the port, they have to report the sharks, the entire sharks with all the fins attached to the body. They won't accept individual fins in the boats, and this is just a way to stop this illegal practice. They might some countries which not entire agree with this new practice, but it is important to mention. French Polynesia, Palau, they're doing fantastic because they are making shark sanctuaries. Also, in other countries like Chile, Colombia, they're making marine protected areas in order to not only conserve and preserve sharks, also different species which inhabit in these areas as well. Personally, this is the one that I feel more related to, ecotourism as an alternative. I dedicate 6 years of my life working as a whale shark guide. And believe me, that was the most beautiful part of my life because I was able to show people how sharks are incredible creatures and how fragile they are, how incredible they are, and how we can protect them. I know inner myself that I made a change when I was working as a guide. I just trust a lot in myself. But seriously, this is also fantastic because more people, more local communities are moving towards ecotourism because if you show them that a kilogram of dead shark worth only $100, an entire shark, a live shark, are worth $1 million, don't you think that they might steer of this decision? Of course. But again, it's just about them to get fully convinced that this is the way how we are going to protect our ecosystems. Um, just to tell you something really relevant about this is that I support ethical practices. There are so many ways how we can lure the sharks in order to have these beautiful encounters in the water. Uh, some of them are more invasive than others. Some people, what they're doing is they're either chumming, basically it's just throwing small little pieces of that animal and also blood and also oil in a way to attract the sharks. Another practice is um, baiting. They have like a kind of box, and inside they stuff this box with a lot of uh, uh, heads of shark and also with blood in order to lure the sharks. Personally, I don't like these practices that much, although have not been proved that they are very invasive. I just think that if I want to see a shark, I would love to see it in a more natural way. There are many places in the world where you can get access to these hotspots. Hotspots are places where the sharks naturally gathered, like Maldives, like in La Paz, for example. We don't feed the sharks. The wild sharks, they just arrive there for a certain season and they just stay there. Also in Baja, we have a place where we can dive with bull sharks. You don't have to do anything. I will explain this more. But seriously, I love this better than attracting sharks, because if the sharks are relating us with food, I think there's only one step that is between us and the sharks, and that this could cause us in a severe accident. And I don't want you to believe that, yeah, you cannot dive with sharks because sharks are, attacking humans. This is creating a worse problem in my opinion. So Cabo Pulmo is one of the most beautiful examples of change. In the late 90s, Cabo Pulmo was a place which was very close um, to have the lowest numbers of diversity. And in 2000s, they decided to change this in order to create a national park. So this is great because the fishermen who before were hunting the sharks, now they're taking people to dive with the bull sharks. Now they're taking people to dive with this huge, tremendous school of jackfish in Cabo Pulmo. So this is great because nowadays, with many studies, we have seen how the diversity is now recovered due to the change of mindset. So in Cabo Pulmo, for example, if you want to see bull sharks, you just need to go to the diving site, you dive down, you just wait, and all of a sudden they will just visit to you. They will just stay around and they will see around. They're pretty curious. So this is the way how I love to see a shark when I don't expect to see it. So in my personal experiences, I took this video was like 5 years ago in Cabo San Lucas. And we were snorkeling with several silky sharks. As you can see, most of them they present some type of injuries. That means that this place is a place where they gather to mate. Normally, for example, when they're in mating season, the males are gonna start to bite the females, and once they get super tired, they will attach belly with belly, and then they will do their things. So they will mate, of course. So you can see a lot of females around. None of them are aggressive, or they're just pretty curious about us. And then, of course, I brought you a video of one of my favorite, the bull shark. Bull sharks are filter feeders, as I said before, and here the shark is displaying filter feeding behavior in vertical position. They just absorbing, they just filtering a lot of water. And in the water you might not see, but there are so many micro small organisms. Those are they belong to the group of plankton. And yeah. So as a summary, sharks are not villains, they're just misunderstood predators. They also play a crucial role in maintaining healthy marine ecosystems like coral reefs or kelp forest or seagrass meadows. Also, overfishing, pollution, and climate change are driving shark population declines. Knowledge and awareness are key tools for conservation, and NGO scientists, governments, local communities, and ecotourism all contribute to shark protection. So the question is, what can we do to mitigate the problem in our houses? So sensitize ourselves. We can start doing this. We can start to stop spreading misinformation about sharks. Share information. You can share this presentation to your friends. You can share the information that you have acquired in this presentation. You can learn more if you want to know more. There's a lot of information outside about sharks. NGOs, they share very easy information to read. Educate ourselves. Which products are we using? Next time you go to the supermarket, maybe you want to read the label before you buy the product. And support local economies, support NGOs, support for if you, for example, are planning to dive in, you plan to dive in Indonesia, in Thailand, in other country, just get yourself informed and see if these companies have ethical practices or not. So for me, that's it. I hope that you enjoyed this presentation. For me, it's just a pleasure always to be here sharing what I know. If you also want to follow me in social media, I'm Eric Ramsa. I have also attached my email if you want to know more information. If you want to share something with me, some experiences as well. I can also send you some pictures. I can also recommend you places to dive in Mexico or in other places. I am very excited because in 1 week we're going, my wife and I, to Thailand for a new adventure. We were in Indonesia 2 years ago and it was just incredible. So let's see how we see on our next diving sites. So thank you so much for everything.
All right, Eric, thank you so much. So before we dive into the question and answer session, I would like to remind everyone that if you do have questions, you can submit them via the question field in your control panel. So just go to the upper right-hand corner. You'll see those three lines up there. That's called the hamburger, actually. So if you click on that, it'll open up and you'll see questions. So click on questions and go ahead and put them in there and we will ask Eric. All right, Eric, let's ask you some questions, sir. Um, so uh, we some of us missed what you said. How many people are killed by sharks every year?
So it's interesting question because it's around 10 or 12. But a lot of people would say, yes, but I read in the news that there was a shark attack in Australia, Bimini, or in Mexico. Yes, there are many shark attacks reported in different places. But just to let you know, sharks they don't feel attracted by our taste, let's say. So of course that once they attack a human, because like I need to try what is this, this human is acting like a wounded prey. I need to try it. Once they try us, they spit it out and they continue the journey most of the time. That's why many of these shark attacks are not fatal. Of course, that people die if they don't receive medical attention. But yes, many shark attacks are happening in different coasts around the globe, but not all of them are fatal. Yeah.
So what should I do then if I see a shark in the water with
Oh,
me?
that's a really good question. Um, this is a long answer, to be honest. Um, First of all, in the water, I can either act as a prey or as another predator. Some of these sharks they also have the same size like us. So first of all, I like to just have eye contact with the shark. I need to remain calm. I need to always see the shark because sharks are pretty curious animals. And if I don't feel comfortable in the water with the shark, I should start to swim back to the ship or back to the beach. But if I lose my mind and I try to swim as fast as possible, making a lot of noise, like hitting the water with my feet, of course that I'm gonna awake a type of attraction to the shark. So it's better if we always keep eye contact, if we just abandon the water in a very calm way. And that reminds me a lot. This year, was last year. No, it was last year. I was in Mexico on holidays because now I live in Germany, as you already know. And I was with my sisters camping in Cabo Pulmo, actually. And I saw that there were a lot of waves. The water was pretty murky, and I was thinking, I know that there are so many coastal sharks in Cabo Pulmo. I really want to see one, but I was snorkeling by myself. Rule number one: always snorkel or dive with someone else. So I was doing by myself, and then all of a sudden I saw a super huge tail of a shark, and I said, "Oh, that must be a black tip shark." And then I was like, I want to go further. And then I said, okay, I'm snorkeling alone, shallow waters. My visibility is very poor. I should get back right now to the shore. So I turned myself back, and I was always keeping contact to the shark. And that was I lied to you before. That was the only time in the water that I felt a little bit uncomfortable. But I know that I need to follow my own guidance. I know that I need to always, like, remain calm in order to not awake any type of insecurity to the shark, of course. Yeah,
Great. Thank you for that answer.
yeah.
So are sharks only found in salt water or are they found in fresh water at all?
99% of the species in salt water. There's only one species who have seen in rivers, the bull sharks. Actually, some bull sharks, they have developed a way to tolerate fresh water, and this is interesting because in the past people were like, I saw a shark in the river. It's like, no, it's impossible. You don't see sharks in the river. But yes, some of these bull sharks, they have occasional incursions in fresh water. Yeah.
So what do you think about cage diving with sharks? Is it ethically responsible?
Good question. And the answer is that, at least in Mexico, for example, in Guadalupe Island is a hotspot for great white sharks. And just a couple of years ago, it was open to public, and different companies were providing this ecotouristic services. So unfortunately, there was an accident, and one great white shark got inside the cage, and unfortunately the shark died. Luckily for humans, the people who were inside of the cage survived, but this wasn't a mistake that could be avoided if the company uh, would have followed all the guidelines, because you have to, like, the catches have to have a different sizes, different, like the bars have to be close enough in order to prevent the shark to get inside. So according to some friends who were guides in Guadalupe, this was a very safe activity. The difference between shark cage encounters within Mexico and South Africa, because in South Africa there's another hotspot to see sharks, is that in South Africa the waters are pretty murky and they're pretty cold. In Mexico, in Guadalupe, the waters are pretty clear, although they're also cold. But unfortunately, this place is closed. Yeah.
So do we know what's happening in Guadalupe Island now that it is closed to divers? Is it still open to fishermen?
Yeah. I won't answer entirely this question, because I might be my gossip, or might be my guessing, but according to what Mexican government says, is that it's closed because they need to reevaluate, or they need to remake a different management plan for Guadalupe. That's the official answer to this.
Thank you, Eric.
Yeah.
So I know there are many different types of sharks, but in general, what are the lifespans of a shark?
Yeah, it matters a lot, but I would say, like, in averages between 20 and 40 years.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah.
So you talked a bit about the mislabeling of products, and they might have shark oils in them. Uh, Is there no regulations that actually stop people from doing this?
They are regulations, but some people, like, it's very complicated to assess this. Just to put you an example, in La Paz, when I was working in um, this genetic lab, we conducted a survey and we took samples from different restaurants, different fish markets, different places in order to see with DNA if there was a mislabeling. As a result, we got that 46% of the species were mislabeled. So this is interesting because how do we know that we actually eating what the people are offering us? So this happens in La Paz, which is very close to the ocean. What happened, for example, to these cities which have no access to the ocean? So yes, there's an entire industry. There's a lot of corruption. There's a lot of things that are happening out there. So it is very complicated to track these things, to be honest.
Gotcha. Thank you. So, what if I wanted to see a shark? Can you recommend a NatHab trip that would perhaps let me see a shark?
Yeah. So your your trip to go would definitely Galapagos. In Galapagos, you can see black tip sharks. You can see sometimes with a lot of lucky hammerhead sharks. You most likely see white tip reef sharks and white tip sharks too. Also, I'm pushing so hard for the company to reopen the World Shark trip because we used to have a World Shark trip in South Mexico, which is another really important hotspot. Unfortunately, the things got not sustainable there anymore. Many tourist company doing whatever they want, and I would love that NatHab reopens this trip in Baja. Baja is one of the best places to see sharks. Although we don't have the same amount of sharks that you might see in the south of Mexico, it is very ethical. It follows a management plan and is highly regulated. So with NatHab, for now, I recommend you to travel to Galapagos Island.
Great. Thank you for that recommendation, Eric.
Yeah.
So, what do you think is the best way to combat the misperceptions about sharks, and what can we do to help bring them back into increasing numbers?
We can start with kids. Yeah, definitely. Because remember that most of the paradigms that we have in our brains as an adults have were learned when we were kids. So I remember many times in my tours as a guide, I listened to mothers telling the kids, "Oh, don't put your feet out of the boat because a shark might bite it." It's like, come on. And kids still learn thinking, "Oh yeah, no, the ocean is a dangerous place to be." And I think it's just amazing what, for example, in La Paz, people are doing. Some guides, they organize talks to schools and they're talking about whale shark and also they're talking about other organisms. So I think we can start with kids, but also I think and then we can continue towards us. So again, just checking our products if they don't have trace elements of sharks or skates or rays. Also, like reading more about sharks, sharing this information with your neighbors or with your families as well. I know it's very hard to turn down paradigms. It's just one of the most complicated thing. But I think if we are to start like changing gears little by little, we can create a change. Locally speaking, this is what I think.
Great, Eric. Thank you for sharing that. Well,
Yeah,
unfortunately, that is going to be the last question that we do have time for today. So I'd like to hand it back to you for any closing comments you may have for us today.
yeah. I would just want to share that if you want to know more about this, just like take the chance to travel to other places and see how local communities are dealing with eco tours, how are they dealing with this entire process, and talk to them because it's very interesting how they will tell you how they have changed from fishing them to now uh, putting them in a pedestrian. And this is how you combine also local communities with shark conservation and protection. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Eric. And I'd also like to congratulate both Mary and Emma for being the only two people to guess right in your quiz today, Eric. They were all sharks. Um,
Perfect.
all right. Thank you for taking the time, Eric, for presenting to us today. And
Special guest.
I'd like to thank everyone who joined us today. So if you are interested in information on how you can travel with NatHab, please give us a call at 800-543-8917, or you can send us an email at info@nathab.com. Our adventure specialists are happy to help you out. Join us tomorrow for our next daily dose of nature. You can check out this week's lineup, including registration links, on our website at nathab.com/webinars. We did record today's presentation, and we will have the replay available on our website soon. With that, I will conclude today's webinar. Goodbye, everybody. We will see you next time.